We ready? Okay. Also, people are free to wear masks or not as you choose. The filter here and our CO2 monitors are pretty good at filtering the air. So if you'd prefer, if you feel safer with a mask, please go ahead.
恭敬大德圣听，为此法会及一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，速证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss, and then birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo Sadanto Suchedoye Alahuri Samyal Samputoshi.
南无萨旦陀苏切多耶阿拉帝三藐三菩提歇。
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. All right. Appreciate the Dharma request. Good evening, everyone. 师父上人，各位师兄，大家阿弥陀佛。Today is Saturday, January the 7th. We're into the new year. It is Sunday, January 8th in Queensland. I want to express my gratitude to all of the volunteers who are helping this lecture go out to the world in Mandarin, in English, in Vietnamese, people who put their computer skills together, people who put their language skills, and all of you who have taken time on a Saturday night and a Sunday afternoon to come and look into the Flower Garland Sutra. What an interesting thing to do on a stormy, wet water of world here in Northern California. Big wind, big water. And we are here to request the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the Flower Garland Assembly to draw near, to bless all of us. We'll do it with music. We put our hearts together, put our voices together, and chant like this. Here we go. Oops, sorry. One more time. Nam mô Đa Phang Quang Phổ Hoa Yên Jing, Hoa Yên Hai Hui Phổ Pu Sa. Nam mô Đa Phang Quang Phổ Hoa Yên Jing, Hoa Yên Hai Hui Phổ Pu Sa. Nam mô Đa Phang Quang Phổ Hoa Yên Jing, Hoa Yên Hai Hui Phổ Pu Sa. Nam mô Đa Phang Quang Phổ Hoa Yên Jing, Hoa Yên Hai Hui Phổ Pu Sa. Nam mô Đa Phang Quang Phổ Hoa Yên Jing, Hoa Yên Hai Hui Phổ Pu Sa. Nam mô Đa Phang Quang Phổ Hoa Yên Jing, Hoa Yên Hai Hui Phổ Pu Sa. Last time. Nam mô Đa Phang Quang Phổ Hoa Yên Jing, Hoa Yên Hai Hui Phổ Pu Sa. There we are. Put you down below. All right. And the Chochenyo Ohlone people practice spiritual connections to the earth and all creation here on their ancestral land for who knows how many thousands of years. Nobody was keeping track. History didn't exist as we know it today back then. But they were the first peoples here, the first humans. And we want to acknowledge them as traditional custodians of the land here where we live, learn, work, and where all our activities take place. All First Nations peoples worldwide are the original storytellers on their lands. And we offer our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. Okay. Notice on my desktop is a scene of rain down under. We're still experiencing a particularly wet summer there. It was we had spring and summer come by. Nobody noticed because we didn't even have the heat that we usually do. We had so much rain. It's a La Nina in Australia. This is what it looks like. So this scene could be taking place right here tonight. Monday, today is Saturday here, Monday another storm is rolling in, and the prediction is, they say, anywhere from 1 to 10 inches of rain in the Santa Cruz Mountains. That's a pretty wide gap. We had 5 last week, so anywhere from 1 to 10 inches of rain are going to be falling starting Monday. So, and falling rain is one thing, but when it hits the ground and there's nowhere for it to go because the land can't absorb back-to-back-to-back storms, that's when floods happen. So we'll be crossing our fingers. One winter, we have the San Lorenzo River tributary running right through our property down on Highway 9, and one winter, the water was right below the bridge. During the drought, the last 3 years, there's been no water in the river. It's been dry, but I think probably Tuesday and Wednesday there's going to be peak flooding. So we'll see how much water we get. Now tonight we finish the praises. I'm going to use 2 microphones. Make sure my voice goes where I want it to. Okay. We're going to finish the praises of a bodhisattva whose name is Juelin Pusa, Forest of Awakening. And just to run it back for folks who may not have been here for the first 3 weeks when we've been working with him, give you the background. We're in the heavens. This is where the Buddha has come to explain a sutra passage, a chapter called Shi Heng Pin, the 10 practices. It's a big teaching that he wants to give. And he gives it from the heavens. And our sutra, our big sutra, is divided up into various assemblies, places, gatherings. So it's not just one place. The Buddha goes to 7 different places to finish all the teachings that he wants to give. And 2 of them he goes twice. So they say Qi Chu Jiu Hui, 7 places, 9 assemblies. So we're in a place called the Suyama heaven. And in that heaven, the Deva in charge welcomed the Buddha, prepared a place for him, made it really nice. And if the Buddha came to the East Bay, where would we put him? Put him in the Paramount Theater, Grand Lake Theater? Where would we put him? We'd have to accommodate lots of listeners. We'd have to make it nice so the Buddha felt welcomed. We'd have to have a good sound system so we all get to hear the Buddha's voice. Where would we put him? So the Deva king in the Suyama heaven knew exactly where to put the Buddha. So he created the place, welcomed him, and told him, interestingly, that the king, the Deva, he's a god, so he's a god, he's a king of gods there. He's in charge. And what he did after the Buddha accepted is he said, you know what? I've welcomed 10 other Buddhas here. You're number 11 at least, but there have been at least 10 others. And here were their names, and when they came, it was the best. Shi gu ci chu zui ji xiang. He said, that's why this place is the most lucky. This place is incredibly spiritually charged because so many Buddhas have come. So our Buddha said, good, I'll be the next one. And he took a seat. The next thing that happened, 10 bodhisattvas show up. And each one of them has a name, Lin, so forest, 2 trees. And they share a connection with this Buddha, and they've come particularly to ask him to speak, because why? these bodhisattvas have something in common, which is when they go home, they have people who are counting on them. They have people who are waiting to hear what they have to say so they can figure stuff out. These bodhisattvas, you can imagine what they look like. They probably look like bus drivers. They probably look like, the person who takes your form at DMV. They probably look like the person who serves you coffee at the coffee shop. They look like the person who delivers the news or the weather on the TV. They're ordinary folks. And yet, secretly and visibly, they have another job, which is the things they say, the actions they do, every move, and the words they speak all have the ability to inspire people. They're good people, kind-hearted, and the things they do just radiate. Our friends at Service Space say they send out ripples. Their actions ripple out and move people, just like when you toss a rock in a pond and the ripples go out. That's the way they speak, think, and act. So they're bodhisattvas. And what makes them a bodhisattva is just the quality of their mind. They decided that everything they wanted to do was going to be right on. Not careless, not off, They were going to be in line with their heart. So each one of these bodhisattvas comes forward, and one in turn, one by one, take a stick of incense, just like we saw just now, walk around, bow, put the incense, kneel, and say, Buddha, I want to tell you about something that moved me. And they proceed one by one to do sort of like spoken word poetry. They praise the Buddha. And the things they praise are each unique and different. We've been talking about this for some time, first when I was back in Australia, and now here in Berkeley. That the things that these bodhisattvas decide to praise are so different. It shows their nature, shows their character. So, all of us, we've got about 20 folks here. Suppose it was your turn. Suppose you had the incense and you were walking around and you're getting ready, and you know that when you start talking, your voice is going to be heard. You're the one who's going to be, everyone's going to be listening to. What would you say? And it's not a challenge, because why? They're talking from their hearts. They really mean it. This is not an act, this is not a performance, the Buddha's there, and all the other bodhisattvas who are related to them. They're all Lin, something Lin, right? They've been together for a long time, so they know each other's sound. They are Zhiyinzhe, right? But this is their chance to really say what they want to say to the Buddha and to each other. So, interesting. What would you say? You're not nervous. You're excited because you've been charged with energy. There's each one of them. They say, Pu Guan Shi Fang Er Shuo Song Yan. They look around in all directions and they know what to say. But here's the other thing. What motivates them is when they go back, they're here in the heaven. They're here in the Suyama heaven. When they go back, they've got people they have to talk to who are waiting. When they go back, you know what they're going to hear? When they go back home after this is over, they're going to hear people say, what was it like? How was it? What was it like? It's just like we do Buddha Root Farm every year when it's not COVID. And on the last day of our week up in the mountains, we do what we call snapshots, which is to say, we say, okay, you're going to go back down into the valley of the smokes, and from here where we've been, where the air is really clean. And you know what's going to happen? Everybody's going to go, what was it like? How was it? They'll say 3 words. How was it? Meaning your time away. And after they ask, you know what you got? You got 45 seconds. You've got a window of about 40, maybe at the most 60 seconds when they're going to listen. And that's your chance to say something that you can actually give something to them. We call it a snapshot. We say, tell us what you saw this week, what you heard this week, or what somebody told you that really impressed you, that you know when you take it back down the mountain, you can share it with others. That's we call it a snapshot or a postcard. Remember a postcard? When was the last time you sent a postcard? So think about an Instagram post or a Facebook or a TikTok video. What do you have that you can take down with you to share in that little 45-second window before the topic changes, before the stream of conversation just goes on, right? So at Buddha Root Farm, we asked people that last night, what have you seen? And sometimes the things that come out are really fun. You know, they're really amazing to hear what people saw that you didn't realize was an important moment. Maybe it happened just after lunch when the dishes were stacked up and somebody came in the kitchen and rolled up their sleeves and said, leave it to me, my turn. You know, they volunteered to do all the dishes, you know, and of course you can't. One person can't do it all, but they volunteered and you saw the relief on somebody's face. Or it was, you know, poking your nose out of your tent and seeing 2 deer just so still, having breakfast in a dewy field in Oregon. Whatever it was, people share their snapshot. So these bodhisattvas know that when they go back home to wherever the world they came from, and they come from different worlds, they're going to have a minute to say to everybody they care about who says, how was it? What was it like? They're going to have a little opening. And so they're ready. They're listening for the Buddha to tell them what to take back. They're really there to learn, to study. So these bodhisattvas, on one hand, they're the big deal. They're the speakers. And on the other hand, they're totally there to learn more about how to teach living beings. Because, man, that's hard. That's hard. How do you teach living beings? What do you say to get them to change their mind? So they see the world a little different and their habit gets changed just enough to make life better for all involved. That's hard. That's hard, you know. So, who was it? Who's the engineer who built the Golden Gate Bridge? Anybody remember? Quick quiz. Anybody know? What was his name? His Scottish name, Mackenzie. There was a Scottish engineer who put a bridge from Golden Gate Park over to Marin Headlands, right? His name was Macintosh or something like that. Anyway, he said, easier to put a bridge across the Golden Gate than to change the human mind. So somebody's quickly checking Google. We'll learn. Anyway, Golden Gate Park was sand dunes before it became Golden Gate Park. It was just sand dunes. And if you go over to Crissy Field and get the right angle, you can still see, you can find the sand right there. Before it was Mackenzie? Joseph S. Strauss? Strauss, okay. There it is. Joseph Strauss. All right. Yeah, we heard it. Good, thanks. Okay, there we go. So, easier to build a bridge across the Golden Gate. And the Golden Gate is no fun to build a bridge across because that water is deep and fast and it's all compressed because it's a narrow inlet, right? Easier to build that bridge than to change somebody's mind. All right. So, that's the introduction. That's how we get started tonight, because our bodhisattva is, and I got one more thing to point out, as we mentioned last week. If you look at all of Shakespeare, and people do, okay, all the plays, all the tragedies, all the comedies, all the sonnets of Shakespeare, what comes out? Well, a couple lines. Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Right? We know that one. To be or not to be, that is the question, says Hamlet. Okay? These few lines, few couple lines that everybody knows. Oh, that's Shakespeare, famous quotes. Well, tonight we get one of those famous quotes. We missing a contact lens or a key? Something? Okay. Okay, good. If get a flashlight and take a look. Take your time if you look for something. Okay. So, tonight is the night when we get the famous quote that came out of the entire Avatamsaka Sutra to typify the whole thing. And it's 若人欲了知三世一切佛因观法界性一切为心造. Now I don't want to mess the translation. We translated this so many times. Should you want to know all Buddhas of the 3 periods of time, simply contemplate the nature of the Dharma realm, how absolutely everything is made from mind alone. That's the famous quote. We'll get there tonight. So you should know that of all the Avatamsaka Sutra, if you had to find a single quote that people remember of all the others, it's so important that every morning when we do Zhaoke, it's every evening when we do the Mengshan, it's right there. We do it, we chant it every single day. That is how important this quote from this bodhisattva in this chapter comes out to represent the whole sutra. So, tonight's the night. Okay, here we go. That's the introduction. We're going to do 5 tonight. All right, there we go. Ready? I'll give you a line, you give it back. 心如供花时，心如供花时，能化诸世间，能化诸世间，无云兮从上，无云兮从上，无法而不造，无法而不造。The mind is like a master artist. The mind is like a master artist as it paints everything in the world. As it paints everything in the world, the 5 skandhas arise from it. The 5 skandhas arise from it. There are no dharmas it does not create. There are no dharmas it does not create. Okay, the mind, we'll go through them all. The mind is like a painter. He's like a master worker, a masterful artist. What do we call him? Genius? What do we call him? A painter. So, the mind paints everything in the world, just like the artist can make everything appear on the canvas. The 5 skandhas come from the mind, meaning your body and your life. Every single living creature comes from the mind. There's nothing in the world the mind doesn't make. Big statement. Okay, now let me point out one. We could just do a month of lectures on this single line, the single verse, but let me point to one of all the things we could say. Any religion that has a God would be deeply offended by this line, which is 95% of the world's religions find a problem with this line. Why? God makes everything, doesn't she? Buddha would say, Who made God? The mind. Oh, trouble. Big trouble. Arguments. Heresy. Skeptic. Infidel. Cut your head off. Blood on the sand. Exactly issues just like this is the cause of most of the world's bloodshed, historically. In Europe, they had something called the 100 Years' War. It was over issues like this, right? Who made the world? Well, clearly, God did. That's why, the whole Bible begins with, on the first day, part of the waters, second, made men and women. On the seventh day he rested. You know, that's how the whole story begins in not just Christianity, not just Judaism, not just Islam, but theistic religions. God is the maker of heaven and earth. So here this verse says, sorry, that's not the way the Buddha sees it once he woke up. He saw the first thing that moved was the mind. So, just to say, that's one item that we could, write books, libraries full of books on this one topic. Okay, one more. Here we go, ready? Ru Xin Fo Yi Er, Ru Xin Fo Yi Er, Ru Fo Zhong Sheng Ran, Ru Fo Zhong Sheng Ran, Ying Zhi Fo Yu Xin, Ying Zhi Fo Yu Xin, Ti Xing Neng, I'm sorry, my mistake. Ti Xing Jie Wu Jin, Ti Xing Jie Wu Jin. The Buddha is just like the mind. The Buddha is just like the mind. Sentient beings are just like the Buddha. Sentient beings are just like the Buddha. Know then that the Buddha and the mind, know then that the Buddha and the mind in substance and nature are infinite. In substance and nature are infinite. Okay, focus on this one. More trouble. This is why we say Buddhism is not a religion for kids. It's not it's not even a religion. It's not a teaching for immature minds. Never mind kids. It's not chronological age. You can be 70 years old, but if your mind refuses to take responsibility for your action, you are not ready for the Dharma. You'll be, maybe you can hear it, but you won't hear it the way the Buddha taught it. What does he say? We just said the mind is the creator, not some individual in heaven. The next stanza, this is Chelien Pusas, kneeling there, sweating a little bit, because everybody listening to him. He says, like the mind, the Buddha, too, makes worlds like what? Land of utmost happiness, made by Amitabha, right? But line 2 says, sentient beings are just like the Buddha, too, which means you, I, we make the world, too. Know then that the Buddha and the mind, in substance and nature, just keep doing this over and over and over. Why do I say it's not for immature people? Because we've got a mind. You have a mind, I have a mind, dogs and cats, birds and insects, fish and amoeba have minds. And the thing about the mind is it doesn't stop creating and projecting its functions out into the world. When does it stop? It stops the first time you, in meditation, do what's called Hui Guang Fan Zhao. You and I reflect. Here's the thing. The power of this is the mind is just here. Our mind, right this minute. We're sitting here in the Buddha hall. You're sitting in your car with your phone on, listening. You're sitting in the beautiful Buddha hall at Gold Coast Dharma Realm. You're wherever you might be listening. Or you got YouTube on, and it's 3 weeks later, and you had a minute, and you decided to listen into the lecture to catch up on your Sutra lectures. At that moment, no matter where we are, our mind is making the world we're moving into. So today, we had a conversation in the dining room, and the question was about, wait a minute, cause and effect. Does that mean who's responsible for cause and effect? Does that mean that karma is like making this? And I said, yep. Not only are we receiving the results of what we've done in the past right now, we are planting the seeds of what we're going to meet in the future right now. So this current breath right? This inhalation right this minute is both the result of the past and the seed for the future. And of course, the next question is, oh yeah, who says so? Where did that come from? And the answer is, that's the engine of the universe. The Buddha didn't invent cause and effect. He reported cause and effect. He observed it and passed it on. And then he said, so a wise person decides, wow, if I'm making my future, I'm going to make a good one. I'm going to plant seeds that I want to harvest later. Not only did the Buddha not invent it, but in the Hebrew scriptures, they say, we will harvest what we plant. As you sow, so shall you reap, right? You sow it, it's going to come back. That's completely part of the Old Testament, which Jews, Christians, Muslims all read and recite and live by. It's in Hindu, it's in the Vedas, this idea of cause and effect. So a smart person, a wise person says, yeah, I'm going to make that part of my life because why? It's true. It's true. And there's a million ways Master Hua would, whenever Shifu would be talking like this, and he would grab for an easy proof, prove it. You know, he'd say, if you punch somebody, you'll get punched back. You would always kind of go to that one, you know, that. And how else, what's the immediate kind of proof of cause and effect? So I have one. Oh, it's funny though. It is, this is a good one. Okay, let me unshare here. There we go. Oh, unshare. Let's see, can we? There we go. So, this was a TikTok video, and I don't have, TikTok is not on my phone, but TikTok videos are reproduced on Instagram and things like that. So people take their favorites and put them over. And this one was difference between Chinese and Western culture. This guy was a student of Chinese and Western culture. And so what was his TikTok, what was his proof of the difference? He said, look at how Westerners react when somebody wants to do a fist bump. So have you seen that one? That maybe you're really the one who posted it, I don't know. So this guy is standing outside a Starbucks anywhere. I think is he in Hong Kong, or maybe he's in Malaysia or something. And he's in a place where Westerners walk by and Chinese, Asian faces walk by. And he holds out his fist. He's a stranger, total stranger. Holds out his fist for a fist bump. And the Westerners come by and they're pulling their suitcases, or I guess he's an airport. It's an airport Starbucks, right? And 5 out of 5 Westerners, he sticks out a fist bump, and people go, hi, dude, okay, you know. Then Asian friends walk by, he sticks out his fist, and they go, they pull back. They're like, no, I don't know you. That might be I might get in trouble, you know. I might be reported. If I know you, it's different, but I don't know you, so pull back. Interesting. So, cause and effect. The fist bump won't work as a proof of cause and effect. So, interesting how cause and effect works, isn't it? So, Shifu would give us these immediate examples of what is cause and effect. By and large, when you smile, you get a smile back. That's a good one. If you frown, people tense. You might not see it, but this is universal. Maybe, can I give you all some homework? You want some homework? Come back with instant karma examples. Instant cause and effect. What Shifu's example is, punch somebody, you get punched back. Well, that's a little bit of violence in it, but it's true, right? How about some positive instant karma examples? Think of something. So, to prove. So, Cause and effect, Shifu would say, is always true. 如是因,如是果. Do we challenge that? How do you, if somebody said, as I heard today, why is that true? Maybe why is not the right question. Maybe it's, can you prove that? Or show me, right? That's my homework for you. Because it is true. And, as I said today in our conversation, I said, what is the Buddha's description of Wu-Ming and of ignorance, and his description of 邪见, wrong views? Also, his description of 愚痴. What do they say? They say there's 3 poisons that are in all of us: greed, anger, and delusion, or 邪见, wrong views. What is delusion and wrong views? 不信因果, disbelief in cause and effect. So the Buddha would say, right, if you're in the world trying to get along, trying to do your best, trying to make a better world, figure things out, get along, leave, as they say in Judaism, leave a better world behind you than before you came, right? If that's something you want to do, and you don't believe that your good actions leave good results and your unwholesome, unskillful actions leave bad results, then you will be disappointed. You will definitely you'll bump into a nail, as they say in Chinese. You'll bump your head, because cause and effect is true. So if I had to, let's say, I'll give you something to work with in your homework assignment. We're going to think of examples that prove the question of, prove it to me, why is cause and effect true? Instant karma examples, all right? So, of the bad seeds that will produce bad results, the Buddha would say 3 with the body: killing, stealing, and lust. That's helpful, isn't it? 3 actions with the body that will produce negativity: kill somebody, depriving them of their life; stealing things that support their lives; or breaking relationships. Lust, meaning usually translated as adultery, but also promiscuity. Because of selfish sexual desire, destroying people's self-respect or their expectations of you, right? Harming relationships through desire. Okay, 3 with the body. 4 with the mouth, the Buddha would say, are the things to avoid: lying, gossip or double-tongue speech, carrying stories on people, backbiting, profanity, 4-letter words, words intended to hurt the heart, and then frivolous speech, or simply dirty jokes, for example. Frivolous speech. So, lying, saying things that aren't true, or saying things when they aren't true, you say they are true, that's an evil deed. And plant that, it will produce negative results. Like what? Tell a lie. You always have to check whether the person you're talking to heard that lie, or else you're going to be caught. So you always have to look and check, oh, okay, they haven't heard the lie, I can tell it, right? Or if you know that person knows it's not true, but you're going with your lie, it's so much work, right? So you get a negative result from having simply not told the truth to start with. Okay, double-tongued speech is number 2. They say 两舌, which is to say you're splitting people up, or you're talking behind their back. Gossip, 是是非非, they say rights and wrongs. That's an evil deed, says the Buddha, with the tongue, with your speech. Profanity, everybody knows. And it's kind of hip to use the F-bomb on podcasts and stuff, but it's not. Everyone knows that you wouldn't say that in front of your mom or your grandmother, So why say it on a radio broadcast? Well, because it's cool. It lends weight, but the wrong kind of weight to your words. And it's an evil deed. It marks the ears and the heart. And then it's called qiyu, frivolous speech, dirty jokes, leads the mind in the wrong direction. Okay, 4 with the mouth. Then 3 with the mind. Greed, anger, delusion. 3 things that if you let them fester, they're there to begin with, but we, just like weeds in the ground. If you plant a garden but don't weed it, up come the weeds. They take over from the stuff that you decided you wanted to grow. And they'll take the sunlight and the water and the nutrition. So we weed those from the mind. Greed thoughts, angry thoughts, deluded thoughts. That's something that you might use, those 10, they're called the shi shan. 10 skillful deeds, 10 unwholesome deeds. And the Buddha would say simply by refusing to kill, steal, and lust, instead, nurture life, be generous, protect your relationships the way you would protect your daughter or your son, right? Or your puppy. How would you protect your dog? Of course you do. Your kitty? Why don't you protect others' lives, property, and relationships the same way, right? So, refusing to lie, refusing to gossip, refusing to use profanity, speaking words that bless the heart instead, refusing to go along with frivolous jokes, prattle. And then no greed, no anger, no delusion. 10 good deeds. So that's our homework. Examples of instant karma. Okay, so think of that, man. The mind is like that. The Buddha says, just like, or the Bodhisattva says, just like the Buddha, just like the mind, living beings are the same. We make the world. All right? We are creating the world this moment. So make a world that we want to live in. The radical thing about this is it's empowering. It's like, yeah, you got the power. Use it wisely, grasshopper. Sentient beings are just like the Buddha. The Buddha and the mind in substance and nature never stop making the world. So get with the program, says the Bodhisattva. Okay? Okay, ready? Here we go. 若人之心恒，普照诸世间，世人自见佛，了佛真实性。If somebody can know the actions of the mind, if somebody can know the actions of the mind as it creates everything in the world, this person sees the Buddha and understands the genuine nature of the Buddha. The genuine nature of the Buddha. Okay. If you can see it, if you can catch it as it does it, that's the Buddha. That's what the Buddha's doing. The difference is the Buddha has no selfishness left. So the world he creates is completely responsive to everything. He's guided by wisdom and compassion. So, amazing. If you can know the actions of the mind as it's creating stuff, that's the Buddha right there. You understand the genuine nature of the Buddha. Okay, we're going to... I want to share, but I don't want to share that. Here we go. Share that. And here we are. Sometimes it's just too much for us. Sometimes stuff just gets... We're overwhelmed a lot, because we haven't seen everything in the world. Sometimes we just kind of feel like, oh my goodness, I need help. Maybe I know it's true, but I can't handle it, so we need help. At a time like that, what do? Call on a big friend, Guan Yin Bodhisattva. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, call her name out loud. Easy, 3 lines the same. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, call her name out loud. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, call her name out loud. When you need her, call her name out loud. You say, I know my mind is making the world Guan Yin, but it's making it bad. I need some help. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, she'll give you a hand. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, she'll give you a hand. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, she'll give you a hand. Call her name and she'll give you a hand. She got 1,000 of them. Guan Yin Bodhisattva rescues living beings. Guan Yin Bodhisattva rescues living beings. Guan Yin Bodhisattva rescues living beings. She made vows to rescue living beings. And those vows are there for us to use, right? Guan Yin Bodhisattva, she can hear your voice. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, she can hear your voice. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, she can hear your voice. Call her name, she will hear your voice. It's just to be feared that we won't call her name. And then the same verse as we started closes it. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, call her name out loud. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, call her name out loud. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, call her name out loud. When you need her, call her name out loud. Okay. Now, for this new song, I wanted to point to this guitar because it was played by a dear friend named Steve James. It's his model guitar. It's the Steve James model made by National. Steve passed away this week of brain cancer. And the acoustic guitar country blues world is mourning the passing of Steve James. And he was a friend and a teacher to many, 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 many people who love this music. So I borrowed this melody, and I'm playing it on the guitar that Steve James has played. He played this very instrument, and I wanted to particularly send out this thought, Guan Yin Bodhisattva, who helps us create the world. It is the case, as the Sutra says, that our mind is making the world, but how much strength do we have in our mind compared to our emotion, for example? Sometimes our emotion just outweighs everything. We're afraid, we're angry, we're indignant, and somehow we can't quite keep the thought moving that we want to be just and kind and fair and thoughtful of others. So things get away from us, and at times like that, Guan Yin Bodhisattva, call her name out loud. Want to join me? Here we go. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, call her name out loud. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, call her name out loud. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, call her name out loud. When you need her, call her name out loud. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, she'll give you a hand. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, she'll give you a hand. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, she'll give you a hand. Call her name and she'll give you a hand. Kuan Yin Bodhisattva rescues living beings. Kuan Yin Bodhisattva rescues living beings. Kuan Yin Bodhisattva rescues living beings. She made vows to rescue living beings. Kuan Yin Bodhisattva, she can hear your voice. Kuan Yin Bodhisattva, she can hear your voice. Kuan Yin Bodhisattva, she can hear your voice. Call her name and she can hear your voice. Last chance, here we go. Kuan Yin Bodhisattva, call her name out loud. Kuan Yin Bodhisattva, call her name out loud. Kuan Yin Bodhisattva, call her name out loud. When you need her, call her name out loud. When you need her, call her name out loud. Cause and effect. Plant the seeds, you get the result. All right. Let us finish our 2 verses and hear the magic verse that everybody says represents the Avatamsaka Sutra. Not this one, but the next one. Here we go. Ready? Xin bu ju yu shan, xin bu ju yu shan, shan yi bu zhu xin, er neng zuo fo shi, zi zai wei ceng you. The mind doesn't abide in the body. The body abides not in the mind. Yet it can do the work that Buddhas do with unparalleled sovereign self-mastery. Sovereign self-mastery. That is such unpoetic language. Oh my goodness. Take a look. Here we go. Shin. So, the Bodhisattva is going to teach us something else about the mind and the Buddha and about living beings. He says, Shin bu zhu yu shen. Take a look. Mind not abide or live in body. Mind is not in the body. Where is it? Shen yi bu zhu xin. Body doesn't live in the mind. It's like, whoa. Yet, er neng zuo fo shi, able to do the things that Buddhas do. Yet, able do Buddha's deeds. Zi zai wei ceng you, with sovereign self-mastery like never before. Is that magic? So, what did he want to tell us? He wanted to say, okay, so I'm saying that the mind creates everything. That's our creation story. The Buddha does too, But you know what else? So do all living beings. And it brings us back to the mind. But where's the mind? It's not in the body. Whoops. What? And the Buddha, the body is not in the mind, and yet this thing that is so powerful, that is that has all of creation's abilities, is right there, infinitely active, creating the world. Zizai Wei Ceng Yo, like never before. It has the power to do it. So when I read this, I go, what? What? What is the mind? How amazing. I'm left with just wonder at the Buddha pointing to the mind. Clearly, I don't know what the mind is and what it's capable of. Where is it? How does it do it? How come I don't know that? It's so powerful. It's zizai wei ceng you. It's more powerful than anything that we can imagine, and yet, right this minute, it's doing it. And you got one, and I got one, and the Buddha has the ability to do it, but we are all potentially able to control the mind like that, and yet, look how far between me and the Buddha. So I have to say, I don't know what this means. The mind doesn't abide in the body doesn't abide in the mind, yet it does the work that Buddhas do with unparalleled sovereign self-mastery. On one hand, I go, whoa, cool. On the other hand, I go, amazing. Thank you to the Buddha for pointing this out to us, but it's really humbling, isn't it, to realize it's like the Buddha says, okay, name the most powerful, wonderful car on the road. Some people would go immediately say, oh, Bentley. Others would go Tesla, because it's quiet, right? No exhaust. Other people would go, well, I kind of like my Volkswagen Beetle. 40 horsepower, it was my favorite. I had a Bug. 40 horsepower, I could change the spark plugs. That was my favorite car. Okay, good. You liked that car. The mind that the Buddha is describing is like a car that no mechanic in the world knows how to fix, but we can all operate it at some point in the future. And the Sutra is an instruction manual to put the steering wheel in your hands and to say, here's the accelerator, here's the brake, here's the gear shift, go. That's what the sutras are. They're gradually showing us how to drive, how to operate the car that is our body and mind, and to do it in a way that doesn't harm and gets us there right on time every time. Totally amazing, right? I mean, just having the Buddha talk about the mind in this way is just staggering, right? It's not in the body. So in other words, it's not the brain. When he says the mind, if you automatically go to the brain, and probably 90% of us would, Buddha's saying that's not it. It's not the gray matter. And yet, is it the shin? So shin. Which one? You know, in Chinese you go shin, not here. In the West, in America, in Europe, everybody shin, immediately, finger goes to the head, right? In Asia, oh, shin. But it's not the organ. So you say shin yi. Oh, shin yi, that helps. Where do you point? You know, amazing what the sutra is telling us about the mind. It's not in the body, and the body isn't just a creation of the mind, and yet the mind is completely, totally there, this instant, doing all the stuff that it does, like a painter. And above, right, in the earlier part, this bodhisattvas gave us a painter as his analogy. Here it is, starting right here. There we go. Oh, there it is. Forest of Awakening. Oh, okay. Oh, the problem is I'm doing full screen. That's why. Here we go. Okay, it started here. The way a skillful painter arranges colors and hues on his palette before shaping the many illusory elements. Oops, sorry. I'm confusing my operating system here. So, just the way the painter puts the paints on his palette, gets his canvas and his brushes. Same way, he doesn't paint anything yet the canvas, the palette, the paint, the brushes, there's no images in them yet. They're all future paintings. But he hasn't dipped his brush in the ink, in the paint. He hasn't touched the canvas. So it's all future, right? So that's the first thing he said. The stuff, the paint, the palette that it's on, the canvas and the brush, contain no paintings. And once the painting is done, you don't see the paints, the brush, the palette, the canvas. Yet if you didn't have the paint, the brush, the palette, the canvas, there'd be no painting in the Louvre. Remember we talked about the Louvre last week, and Upasaka Jogo Lee, who grudgingly accepted that Western painting might be okay. Then the Bodhisattva switches to the mind. He introduces a new element here. He says, the mind doesn't have any paintings. You won't find Mona Lisa in the mind. And yet, if you look at the canvas out there on the wall of the museum, or if you have one on your wall at home or more, you won't see mind in the paintings. Yet, if you didn't have your mind watching them, you would never see a painting, because there's this relationship between perception, images. I saw it. Yeah, I saw it, like that. Then he drops the paintings. He's now gone to the mind, because we've already established this idea of subject and object. Okay? The mind doesn't stop. It just keeps going, and it creates all kinds of things. But the things that it creates don't know each other. This painting here, this photograph, doesn't know the teacup. This bell, let's try that again. Here we go. Here's the bell. That bell doesn't know this glass slide, okay? Obviously. The painter is back, just like the master artist, who doesn't know his own mind. He's a craftsman, she's a craftsperson. Yet all of the paintings that she creates come from the mind, and now he's introducing one more image. Dharmas are the same. Everything in the world is just the same, which is they're here somehow magically appearing. Flowers over here, the rug down below, the projector screen. Magically they appear from somewhere, and yet they don't know each other. Okay, now what do we got? We got the painter, his paintings, the mind, and dharmas. He's got all these elements out here. He's going to play with them now. The mind is like the painter. The mind can paint everything in the world, and all kinds of living beings, 5 skandhas, body and mind, come from it, and so does everything else. The mind. Next, the Buddha. The Buddha's like the mind, and furthermore, living beings are just like the Buddha, which is what? The Buddha and the mind creating the world, infinitely moving. That's what's going on. Our minds are just going. That's their function. How amazing. Okay? If you can recognize how your mind is creating the world, good, bad, love it, hate it, nothing in between, as it creates everything in the world, you see the Buddha and you understand the Buddha's real nature. Now, do we? Well, not yet, but we want to. Then, number 9, the mind isn't in the body as it creates everything, and the body is not in the mind, yet it functions incredibly, infinitely with 自在为成有, incredible power. right? Number 10. Ready? 若人欲了知三世一切佛因观法界性一切为心造 Should you want to know all Buddhas of the 3 periods of time, simply contemplate the nature of the Dharma realm. How absolutely everything is made from mind alone. Alone. There you go. He's introduced the last item in his praises, which is the Dharma realm. And that's one for you to contemplate. He says, "In guan," let's look at the Chinese here. Okay, suppose you, Ren, want to know 3 periods of time, all Buddhas. If you want to know where Buddhas come from, let's do this. Guan, look at, with your mind, contemplate, Fa Jie Xing, the nature of the Dharma realm. What is the Dharma realm? You could say kind of the universe, but it's more than that. It's a place where principle lives. Truths, cause and effect, is part of the Dharma realm. Yiqie wei xin zao, how everything is made from mind. That's his last statement. So, Juelin Pusa, Bodhisattva Forest of Awakening, thank you for 10 memorable praises. These series of 10 are famous, because in 10 verses he's given us a picture that we can grab, a painter. And he's told us how the mind works, how it creates, how the Buddha works, how living beings have the mind where the mind is, that it never stops. It functions and goes on and on and on. And like we said last week, people who have near-death experiences report that the last thought they had before they left their body and floated off into space was something totally mundane, like, gee whiz, I forgot to cancel my subscription to the Chronicle, that online through iTunes, the iTunes store. How many subscriptions have I let slide, and I keep paying them every month, and and then dead. They go out of their body with some thought, oh, I forgot to unplug the toaster, and it's like the mind is just firing off. That's not the kind of, you want something grand as you leave your body or some great thought, right? Nope. It's just, oh, I forgot to put the dog out. I hope she doesn't crap on the rug, like, something like that. And that's the mind. It's a function. It just fires off and fires off and fires off. And yet, if we discipline the mind, if we train it, oh my goodness, we can have a mind like the Buddha. We can have a mind that creates 自在为增有, freer than ever, independent, completely without greed, without anger, without any delusion. Everything we do is right on. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay. So while we wait for our cultivation to mature that way, what we do is we try in everything we can to help people out, to be a little less selfish, a little more selfless, as we work on those 10 good deeds and 10 evil deeds. Right now, COVID has not gone away. Where the newspaper occasionally gives us the stories about COVID. One of our favorite elders here in our community both got COVID and the flu at the same time. miserable. In China, COVID is making a lot of people very unhappy. So it's an opportunity for us to use music to learn something to do with our minds, so we're not just kind of letting our mind idle. Songs work that way. Whether we remember to Guanyin Bodhisattva, she'll give you a hand, right? Maybe we just remember to recite Guanyin's name, or instead, what do? We see a mood coming on. We see our minds kind of sliding south, sliding into depression or sadness or go back. There you go. We see that mood coming on, and we think, oh, that's my habit. I can do that. Or I can give my mind something else to do. I can give my mind a job and refuse to go with the mood. Refuse to just, and suppose somebody in our world is giving us a stink eye or misbehaving or doing something actively bad, and it's somebody you care about but you can't control them. So what do? You refuse to be 不被警戒转, refuse to be turned by that state. How do you do it? You got to come up with something strong. You got to come up with something equally strong with that mood. And here's a good one. Better times will come, better times. I know you know it. Better times will come when this world learns to live as one. Oh, better times will come. 明天, is that big enough? Can you see it? Can you see the, okay. 明天会更好，明天会更好，世界和谐心大同，明天一定会更好。When we greet each dawn without fear, knowing loved ones soon will be near. When the winds of war cannot blow anymore, oh, better times will come. Better times. Let's see. So do the Chinese. Here we go. 面对困难毫不畏惧，亲朋好友不离不弃，道场如苦，马放南山，明天一定会更好。Chorus. Better times will come, better times will come when this world learns to live as one. Oh, better times will come. 明天会更好，明天会更好，世界和谐心大同，明天一定会更好。Though we live each day as our last, we know someday soon it will pass. We will dance, we will sing in that never-ending spring. Oh, better times will come. Here we go. 生死会瞬一息之间，黑暗夜晚变幻百千。 感恩心想大地会春，明天一定会更好。Last chance. Better times, better times will come, better times will come when this world learns to live as one. Oh, better times will come. 明天会更好，明天会更好。世界和谐，心大同，明天一定会更好。Last line together. 世界和谐，心大同，明天一定会更好。Yeah, that sounds nice when everyone sings along. Okay, there we go. Better times will come. And if we sing that, by golly, better times come. And what we learn to do is take charge of our own thoughts. A note from a friend who did a good deed, and as a result got some music from Dharma Radio. She then played those songs for her class. She's a classroom teacher down in LA. Happy New Year, everybody at CTDB Monster. I'd like to send these video clips to Reverend Heng Sure. If you can forward, appreciate it. Today I played Dharma Radio songs for my students. She's an elementary school teacher. The first one was during class recess. It was raining outside. They were listening in awe. They've never heard the strains of a guitar and such a calm voice singing. The second and third time she played them, I played the music. They did their classwork after recess. It was really nice keeping them focused on their work. It activated their right brains, less talking. I will continue to do this. Hopefully they can learn the lyrics of one of the songs. All right. They got the right spirit. Here's another one. Good Karma music story. My sister wanted to celebrate her birthday painting ceramics with her friends. That's something they do for fun. But after realizing it might be too expensive to get something fired and the right painting and all, I came up with an idea. I told her, ask her friends what they wanted to paint in advance. And over the course of the 2 weeks, I got some air dry clay, simple clay, and I made the items they wanted. I went and brought more paintbrushes just to make sure they had enough to share. Her friends came over to our house. They sat, they talked, they laughed while painting. I heard some of her friends say, well, that was the first time they'd ever tried painting clay. At the end of the day, they all took home their finished pieces, smiling as they left. I'm really glad I could help them have this experience together. So, okay, that's certainly worth some music, right? Good Karma music. Do you all know how to get there? Do you all know how to find it? You go out to Dharma Radio, which is, do I have a shortcut here? I guess I don't. Type it in. Dharma Radio. There it is. Here it is. So, you go out to Dharma Radio, and you click on Good Karma music, and you do a good deed. Whatever you consider a good deed, however you define it, and do a good deed, share it with us below, and we send you a complete album of Buddhist or Catholic monastic music and the booklet of lyrics and stories so you can sing along with your kids in your classroom or your grandpa or your grandma or yourself. Inspire others with goodness while collecting all of our albums. You have to do a lot of good deeds for that, but it's worth it. Every good deed counts no matter how small. All the Good Karma music stories are posted, so when you fill out the form, please confirm the story can be shared, right? Remember the guy in Beijing who said, I didn't do any good deed, I just wanted the music, he said. We said, oh, no, we'll send it to you. Try harder. Right? Entering your name and email is completely optional. Our albums are available. If you want to buy it, we will take the money and donate it. iTunes, Amazon Music, Spotify, KKBox, other platforms. Proceeds will be donated to a good cause. Here are your choices. choices of music, including we are proud to host the music of Father Cyprian Concilio, the prior of New Camaldoli Buddhist Hermitage. Why won't that? There it is. There we go. Plus, we have the stories of Brian Conroy, who may be listening tonight. But there it is, The Light That Never Dies. Brian reading a CD of stories. So do a good deed and get all of them. Here's what you do. You say, we want to post your good deed. Can we add it to the Good Karma music page? We need your permission. Yes. Your name, your choice, your city, and what was it. Post the content there. Then tell us what is 1 + 1 equal. Robots have a harder time with that. And here are the stories. Look at that. That's the one we read tonight. Our family of 4 came back from year-end trip in Northern California, 4 national parks, Southern California, Arizona. We spent 6 nights in 4 hotels during the 7-day trip. We were grateful to hotel staff who worked very hard during the holidays. What we did was leaving tips with a handwritten thank you note in the hotel room when we checked out. In addition, I made sure we also tipped the hotel staff who made continental breakfast. On our last day of the trip, where we were getting our car's tank filled up with gas, it occurred to me I forgot to put the bills in the tipping box of the hotel dining room. I asked my older son to go back to drop off the tips in the box. Sharing the earth together, we're like a big family. We are interdependent, interconnected. Without the work of all the people, our vacation would not be possible. Happy New Year to all my family members on this earth. Love you all. Good deed. I don't know what album she took, but I hope she enjoyed listening. Okay, there you go. So you too can increase the goodness in the world and pass on. If you don't want the CD, give it to somebody else. It's digital, so yeah, they have to have an iPod or a phone to play it. But the songs are, we hope you like them. Spirit in the cave of the heart, grant us your grace. Spirit in the... You don't get to hear his voice because the intro is so long. Oh, there you go. So, for a Benedictine monastic, that is some kicking guitar playing. Father Cyprian is my idea of a skillful guitarist. Anyway, do a good deed and you can download the whole thing. Oh boy, oh boy. Now, let you know that tomorrow night there will be another Sutra lecture on, you go out to YouTube. Move this out of the way, please. There we go. Where is YouTube? Right there. And you go to CTTB Live, I believe. Is that right? CTTB. Let's see here. There it is. City of 10,000 Buddhas Live. And where is, let's see, coming up. Videos. I don't know if... Oh, Reverend Heng Sher's lecture, right there. 10 transferences. There it is. So you go there, and you can live in 22 hours. So I will be alive in 22 hours. I'm glad to know that. That's really refreshing and reassuring somehow. So there it is, and you can listen to, it's the City of 10,000 Buddhas Sunday night lecture. So it's fairly formal, a little bit more formal than... But we try to keep it lively and enjoyable as well. So just to let you know, CTTB Live on YouTube. And I know there are some friends who are saying right now, I can't get YouTube. It doesn't play in my country. So how does that work? Does Jin Yong Shi where does he make that available? Maybe on the CTTB website? On Zoom, yeah. Where's the Zoom link? Do we know? Through email, yeah. So I suspect if you go to drba.org, Berkeley Monastery, it should be there, that Zoom link, yeah. Do you know, is it there? And Gold Coast Dharmaram also. So, yeah. Oops, that's not what I wanted. BerkeleyMonas. berkeleymonastery.org. Let's see here. Now that we have come here, I wanted to say that our regular morning evening ceremonies at berkeleymonastery.org are postponed for a month, with the exception of Jinpo Shi's noontime Buddha recitation. Every day at 12:30, you can reliably tune in here, click on that link, and it will take you to Jinpo Shi's, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It's out on YouTube, our YouTube channel, reciting the Buddha's name with Jinpo Shi. So otherwise, we're taking a winter retreat. Jinchuan Jinwei are in India. We are working with our Chan meditation, so here it says postponed from 12/26 to January 25th. So after New Year's, after Lunar New Year's, we'll be back. Okay. So, Locke, where are we going to send people to find the Zoom link? We can post it in the chat on YouTube. Put it in, let's see. We'll put it on Berkeley Monastery website later. Okay, so if you want to listen in tomorrow to my lecture on the 10 Transferences chapter on Zoom, there will be a link tomorrow on the Berkeley Monastery website. Okay, so that gives you a way to do that. Okay, so now's a chance to transfer merit. I'm mindful of my departed teacher, Steve James. Whoever you would like to dedicate merit to, please make a wish. Tomorrow we'll be talking about the theory, how you do the Huixiang. And we're now going to practice Huixiang. So send out that wish. Next week we will be back with Forest of Knowledge Bodhisattva, who is the last one of the 10. And then we have to decide what to lecture on next. What's the next chapter for us? Because we're about to finish chapter 20. Okay. Everybody got your wish for transference? Here we go. Om Namo Bhagavate Vaisajya Guru Vaidurya Prabharajaya Tathagatāya Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Adhyata Om Vaisajya 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 Samukate Swaha Om Namo Bhagavate Vaisajya Guru Vaidurya Prabharajaya Tathagatāya Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Adhyata Om Vaisajya 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 Samukate Swaha Om Namo Bhagavate Vaisajya Vaidurya Prabharajaya Pathagataya Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tadyata Om Vaisaje Vaisaje Vaisajya Samukate Swaha And we can bow to the Buddhas together, right from where you're sitting, with the wonders of modern technology. Okay, here we go. 3 bows. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. You remember we used to exit by singing our Avatamsaka chant, remember? Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yen Jing. See you next week, everyone. Yen Hai Hui Ho Pu Sa Namo Da Fang